Alright, hear me out. Romance is peak. Except I'm the only person who thinks that. Summer 2023 season has come along, and if I'm gonna be honest, I'm having a bit of trouble finding some anime to watch. With all that said, I generally think, besides the heavy hitters of the season, it definitely gives me a bit of time to catch up with other shows and give myself a breather instead of tackling a whole bunch of anime. Mashoko Tensei Season 2, Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, Horimiya Side Stories, No Not You, Jujutsu Kaisen, Masamune-kun, and Bleach are all sequels that while I have not watched every single one of them, it is one of the most stacked seasons in terms of good sequels. There are a ton of new shows like Psalm 100, and The Girl That Forgot Her Glasses gives a huge variety to what people want to watch. However, within all the shows that I just listed, there's only one anime that stood out to me extremely well within the others, and of course, it's another romance anime. My Happy Marriage is one of these stories that has both a live action adaptation and manga adaptation from the original light novel series, meaning the last adaptation that we get is actually this current anime season. How would the anime adaptation hold up? Well, I can tell you it's pretty freaking good. My Happy Marriage sets up itself with the character Miyo, whose father remarried to another woman after her mother passed away. Despite being a child of her father starts to hate her after the death of Miyo's mother. Additionally, the mother's manipulation leads to his father going against every decision on Miyo, and this eventually also carries on to her stepsister, Kaya. We will get to her later. She grows up essentially to be a houseworker, even though she is a daughter of the main household. She gets beaten the heck up, even for a spill of tea, which is honestly just abuse at this point. They send her off to a man that is regarded as one of the most mysterious and demanding men throughout the entire village, rejecting every woman who wants to marry him. This was supposed to be the last time they ever see Mio again. They didn't want her in the family anymore, didn't care anymore, and hoped that Mio would also be dumped by this young mysterious man. Except it was the biggest mistake that they made. Upon finding herself into the new estate, she is already greeted by a housekeeper named Yurie, who is a housekeeper and is the first relationship that Mio works towards. Yurie takes care of Mio much more seriously than anyone in her old home, even so to the point where Yurie can do a majority of the housekeeping instead of her. This is already a step forward in where Mio is going, as she doesn't have to get yelled at for pouring tea in a different way. We then are greeted again with the man at hand, Kudo. At first he definitely is a lot more strict and sounds exactly what the original family thought he was. He even tells Mio that if he tells her to die, she should follow this order. Mio, who already had a tough life, just states that she understands what he has just said to her. Kudo then becomes confused. This is the first time that a woman has actually taken that order seriously, and doesn't question the order whatsoever. It's different, it's weird, and even if he is in charge of the estate, shouldn't a person question this order? The first 6 episodes centers itself around this plot point. A lot of people have been saying that this is somewhat of a Cinderella story, and yes, I can absolutely see the references. However, it definitely differs itself when it comes to world building, as well as how the plot progresses, because Mio herself is the one who struggles the most, and by the end of an episode, she still struggles to find herself. Mio is probably one of the best written characters that I've seen this year, and despite everything that has happened in the show, was also one of the fastest 180 turns in how people liked her. The first 6 episodes dictated how she moves on. She has a lot to change about herself. She can't go around people without an order given to her, and therefore she doesn't have any motivation to do what she wants. She lacks feelings and emotions. She wants to be able to have them, but is obviously stopped by Kaya and her stepmother. You see a side of her that is broken, wish to help, but don't understand how other characters can help her. Heck, even the one man who talked to Mio for years wanted to help her for a long time, but decided not to when it mattered the most. Mio needed a bond, and this is where Kudo comes in. Kudo treats her like a regular person. He doesn't need anything else but genuine love from both sides in a relationship. When he sees Mio crying for the first time after saying that her food was really good, he is bewildered by it and goes to tell Mio that she should be proud of what she can be. It's a mature relationship that he wants and goes as far as to investigate her entire background to be able to help her. Both Mio and Kudo had needs that they needed the most, but often lacked because they didn't have the chances to do so. However, bringing them together was what enabled them to grow as characters. Kaya, the stepmother, and Miyo's father were a family that we wanted to strangle. After realizing that Miyo was actually having a good life with Kudo, they go as far as to take her prisoner and try to get her to remove the marriage proposal. It was essentially their mistake, but even when they saw what had happened, they tried to do as much as possible to remove Miyo's new happiness. The entire family is spoiled, and while I feel like they are terrible characters, they are essential to the plot and needed so that we can hate them as much as possible. I haven't seen myself boil in a very long time, and this was the one family that I struggled to even look at whenever they were on screen. This also allowed Kudo to grow as a person, because when Miyo does get kidnapped, Miyo realizes that Kudo can do anything for her, and Kudo himself will try to protect Miyo as best as he can. Episode 6 showcases this as best as possible, alongside a lot of world building that we had seen in previous episodes. We didn't see much supernatural aspects in previous episodes, but when we have a romance that is much more mature than other shows and action scenes that look better than a lot of action anime themselves, comes back together as a nice clean anime. The later 6 episodes centers around Kudo's newfound life after the incident, as well as a new problem that arises for Miyo. Miyo starts to suddenly change for the better in terms of chasing new dreams for herself, but has a lot of nightmares for a long time. Kudo tries to investigate this as well, and it all goes back to Miyo's mother. This part of the series I think dragged a lot for others, and I can understand why some may have felt this part underwhelming. However, showcasing more of the action or supernatural world was also part of the story, and it's also nice to see a change of pace within halfway through the season. The one thing that people seemed to be annoyed about was Miyo. Miyo does a lot to change herself. It's part of her development. A lot of people think otherwise though, as she still struggles in certain situations and in crucial moments doesn't know what to do. The point of Miyo in the beginning of the story was that she didn't have a life where she could choose what she could do. Yet it seems like people forget that this existed after episode 6. It's a progression towards something she wants to achieve, and she will do as much as possible to achieve this goal, even if it is at a very slow pace. Kinema Citrus was undoubtedly one of the biggest studios that I didn't expect them to adapt. After all, they are known for things like Made in Abyss and Rising of the Shield Hero. However, I'm glad that they were the ones to adapt this, because it couldn't have gone better than if I were to choose any other studio. The animation in the anime is fluid, and the colors of many scenes are beautiful. And it's amazing how they transitioned the art style and animation from things like Made in Abyss into this show. Another plus that I also realized was that Evan Call was the one doing music. Evan Call is responsible for the godlike tracks of Violet Evergarden, and in this anime, he has made the music distinct for this show. The era the place takes in is around the beginning of the 1880s to around the 1940s. Despite how old the era is, Evan Call was able to transfect the life of Miyo and Kudo beautifully with his soundtrack. Whenever there was a crying scene, a soundtrack can hit so hard that it can make people cry. Whenever daily life occurred, it gave you a beat that seemed so cheery that a baby could be pacified with. A fighting scene can occur and the soundtrack can make the fight seem more livelier. A soundtrack never misses with Evan Call, and Kinema Citrus, and it's almost as if they had inducted Miyo, Kudo, and the many other characters' feelings into the soundtrack. When I first listened to the opening after the episode had ended by Riria, I couldn't help but think for a second about what I had just watched. After seeing what had happened to Miyo's life, the opening was enough to make me almost want to cry. I've never ever seen an anime where it makes me want to cry through just its opening. It's something that sounded so beautiful, and something that you wanted Miyo to have. My Happy Marriage is one of the anime that I will definitely look back to, even if it does somewhat have a misleading title. It's an anime that I can't really tell people about because there are definitely some feelings that you might find unexplainable. It's an anime that while I can't narrow down the things I can think of, I can definitely say it's not just a Cinderella story. There are things that you can relate to, things that you might find different, but it is a mature story. There's nothing else that I think I would find in a romance anime, and despite how underrated this show is due to the stacked season, this is the anime that I'm looking for. It isn't just romance trash, it's It's a goddamn gem.
ここにいてほしいんだ。黙れ。
君はミヨ、旦那様、ありがとうございます。旦那様。はい。
Hey guys, Ramen here, and thank you for watching the video. I hope you all have found some new recommendations within my videos. I just wanted to give a quick update, as I said on one of my videos descriptions, but didn't necessarily address it. I'm trying to basically spread out my videos so that content doesn't get delayed indefinitely due to how busy I am. So I'm going to be doing my videos ahead of time so that I can get videos out before a few breaks. By the time you're watching this, it probably is in the middle of the fall season, and I honestly don't know if I will get out a fall video if I like anything in the fall season out within the year. The year is almost up, and I'm surprised that it's been almost a year since I started. Anyways, that's basically the update, and I'll see you all in the next video.